heading to Antarctica in a couple of weeks actually to try and break the world record to be the youngest person ever to reach the South Pole completely alone, unsupported and unassisted, with the hope of raising over £25,000 for the Gurkha Welfare Trust, which is the charity that looks after my soldiers and their families, both whilst they're in the army and when they leave as well. So, to give you a bit of context, more than 530 people have now been into space. Over 4,000 people have managed to summit Mount Everest. Yet only 26 people have ever walked to the South Pole alone, and only one person has ever survived that journey under the age of 30. The journey itself actually starts 1,100 kilometres away from the South Pole on the floating sea ice off the coast of Antarctica, where I'll be dropped off, I'll be chucked out the side of a plane with 2 skis on my feet and a massive sled with 100 kilos of supplies, which is everything I need to keep me alive for 2 months alone in Antarctica. To give you an idea of sort of how far and how heavy that is, that's like walking from here in Liverpool to a stag do in Prague in the Czech Republic, but you've got to drag the groom the entire way there behind you. Antarctica is the highest, coldest and windiest continent on Earth, so with weather like that, what could possibly go wrong by yourself for 2 months? Well, the first thing I've got to deal with are crevasses. Now, Antarctica is a land continent, but it's covered in a thick layer of ice up to kilometres deep in places, and it's riddled with these cracks, which can be 1 metre wide, they can be 10 metres wide, they can be 100 metres wide. And because of that wind, it blows a thick layer of snow over the top that in some places, on the left-hand pictures you can see, can be quite thick, but it can also be just a couple of inches thick in places, and you're walking along and it looks absolutely fine, and you can fall through that crevasse, and it's about 1 kilometre deep in places, and it's a rather long, hard landing at the bottom with pretty much no chance of getting out. And as you can see in the top right-hand corner, that was Sir Ranulph Fiennes when he tried to cross Antarctica in a snow cap. And he kept falling in crevasses. And in the bottom right hand corner you can see pretty much the most terrifying picture of all time, which is actually inside a crevasse. So say I successfully managed to avoid falling in any massive large holes, the next thing I've got to deal with, and I really apologise for this photo because I didn't realise I would be doing this after lunch and I know you've just eaten, is obviously the cold. Now, the coldest temperatures ever recorded on Earth were minus 89 degrees Celsius in Antarctica. I'm going in the middle of summer where I'll get the relatively balmy temperatures of around minus 50 day to day, getting as cold as down to about minus 70. So what happens to human flesh at those sorts of temperatures? Well, on the top right hand corner there, that's frostbite on your toes, and on the left that's frostbite on your fingers. And it affects your extremities the most, so your fingers, your toes and your ears. And for me, my biggest problem, because I've got a rather large nose, is the fact that my beak could get quite severely frostbitten. So I've got a specially made face mask to keep my schnoz nice and warm for the majority of the 2 months. On the bottom right hand corner there, that's a condition called polar thigh. Now I'm walking for 2 months directly into wind, uphill at minus 50, and my thighs basically take the brunt of that wind. And the whole top layer of it can basically get slightly frostbitten, and also from the friction of rubbing against my multiple layers of clothing, it gets infected, it's very painful, and it's rather hideous. I'll get rid of it now because it's rats. So, if I manage to not fall in any massive holes and my fingers and toes don't go black and my nose doesn't fall off, the next thing I've really got to worry about is starvation. So as we're standing and sitting here, and a guy about my size, I'm burning about 3,000 calories a day just to keep me alive. When I'm in Antarctica and I'm skiing 12 to 14 hours every day, dragging that weight, I'm going to be burning 3 times that, about 7,000 to 9,000 calories every day. The human body itself can only consume 6,000 calories a day, so even if I ate 500 cheeseburgers in a row, I'd only ever be able to consume 6,000 calories. So I'm losing weight from day 1 for 2 months. So to try and counteract that, in the morning and in the evening I eat 2 massive dehydrated meals, which basically I have to add water to and stir them up. And they're very, very bad for you, basically. They're filled with a huge amount of preservatives, obviously, to keep them for 2 months down there. And then during the day, I can't stop for more than a couple of minutes, so I can't cook up one of these meals. So I basically have a massive pocket full of snacks of the highest calorie foods known to man. So I've got salamis, chocolates, nuts, dried meats, and all that sort of stuff that I just eat throughout the day. Now, as you can imagine, that's not the healthiest diet in the world. There's pretty much next to no nutrients in that diet. It's all carbohydrates, high fats and sugars. So for me, when I'm carrying things in my sled, unless it meets the requirement where it's keeping me alive, I can't afford to take it. So when I'm taking Juice Plus supplements in the morning and in the evening, that is giving me all the nutrients that I need to repair my body. Most things that fail in Antarctica and polar regions, it's not because you fall down a crevasse or even that your fingers fall off or anything like that. It's because your body can't repair itself. The stress that you're putting yourself under, dragging those weights for that long, your body just breaks down. Unless you're getting those nutrients, it's not going to be able to keep going for 2 months. And so far, touch wood, I've not had a single illness or problem like that. I had superficial sort of cold damage to my face in the Arctic when I was training. But through using the Juice Plus supplements in the morning and the evening, I've been able to continue 12 to 14 hours a day for multiple weeks at a time. So, yeah, So you're now probably thinking, after a few rather hideous photos, why in God's name would you ever want to do this, Scott? It sounds absolutely terrible. And it's the question that I get asked most commonly, and it's the most difficult to answer. It really is tough, but it's a combination of so many different factors for me, really. I've managed to boil it down to 3 main features, okay? The first is in the name, in Antarctic Gurkha. I'm still a serving platoon commander in the Royal Gurkha Rifles, and a couple of years ago I was in Liverpool in 2015 when the earthquake actually hit, which killed so many thousands of people and destroyed so many homes, families and livelihoods. And I went out with the Gurkha Welfare Trust and visited the most affected areas. And I visited some Gurkha veterans who had fought in Japan in World War II. They're in their 90s and over 100 now. And they'd had their homes completely destroyed. And within a matter of weeks and months, the Gurkha Welfare Trust had taken the supplies out and rebuilt their homes and was making sure that they're always looked after. And when I look in my platoon now, and I've got boys who are 18, 19 years old, I really hope that in 60 years from now, if anything was ever to happen to them, that they would always be looked after, and the Gurkha Welfare Trust would always be able to look after them. So raising money for them, any pound I could ever do, means the absolute world to me. Thank you. The second reason, and this is where you're going to really start thinking I'm a little bit weird, is I absolutely love that feeling of pushing yourself to where your body's given in, and it's only this weird voice in your head that's sort of keeping you going. And I've done some stuff with the army and in sports and such, where I've taken myself to quite tough points, but I've never got to that limit where I've actually gone, do you know what, I can't do this. I really wanted to see, and I really wanted to take the safety net away, go by myself and see if I could actually keep pushing myself, even when my body had given out. And even when my mind was telling me to stop, there was something just still there telling me to keep going, keep taking one more step. It's a million steps from the start to the finish in Antarctica, and I think probably after about the first 6 I'll be sick of it, but I really hope that there's that voice in my head that can keep me pushing, and it brings me a great amount of happiness in other parts of my life when you're taken into those beyond your comfort zone, and to be honest, just being inside, just being able to run the tap and get under a duvet is an absolute treat. So for me, it's a big part of continued happiness to take myself outside of the comfort zone. And the next reason, which I really hope resonates with a lot of people here today, is when I was a kid, I wanted to be a tennis player. My dad was a tennis coach. He coached Anna Ivanovic, who was very involved with Juice Plus back in the days, and I wanted to follow in his footsteps. I was absolutely desperate to make it as a tennis player. I had this big, I think I'd already planned my sort of Wimbledon acceptance speech before I won a single match, and I was dead set, and that's what I was going to do. I spent 13 years putting absolutely everything I had into tennis. I left no stone unturned. There was nothing I wasn't willing to do. If you told me by shaving my head I would have been a little bit faster, I would have looked like Andre Agassi within the minute. I was desperate. That's all I wanted to do. And after 13 years, unfortunately, I completely failed. I was terrible. I wasn't very good at tennis at all. And I didn't really win many matches, and I was miles away from ever really making that dent on the tennis world that I wanted to. And at 23, I was sort of like, well, that's it now. So that was my good chance to do something great, and I settled into this. I was like, you just have to live out a normal life, and I wasn't really going to do anything great. I thought that's a bit sad, actually. At the age of 23, to think you've had your one chance to do anything really great in this world. And I always wanted to be able to look back at my grandkids 60 years from now and be able to look at them and be proud and say I did actually manage to do something a little bit different, a little bit great, and leave the world in a slightly better place than when I started. And so I came up with the expedition and started planning it. And it's so wonderful to me to come here and be able to talk to people from Juice Plus, because every single person that's sitting here has recognised that within themselves. They've made the decision that actually they're not content with just going quietly into the night, they have seen that they're a little bit special inside, and they're going to put in the work to make sure that that happens. So coming here and hearing your stories and talking to people, and the people have been so kind to reach out to me on Instagram and Twitter, it inspires me every day to hear your stories and the work that you're putting in to leave the world in a slightly better place than when you started. So I can't thank you enough from the bottom of my heart for the support that Juice Plus and the Juice Plus family has given me on this expedition. And people have been kind enough to donate at justgiving.com/ScottSears to the Gurkha Welfare Trust. Even if it's £1, 50p or £2, you know, those of you who are here that have done it, it means the absolute world to me and also to the Gurkha Welfare Trust. You can follow along the expedition at Antarctica_Gurkha on Instagram. Some of you, like I said, have already sent me such wonderful messages of support, and I can guarantee you, when I'm sitting in my tent feeling slightly sorry for myself after about 6 or 7 weeks, it will definitely take me through some dark times. So from the bottom of my heart, thank you so much, and I really look forward to the rest of the weekend. I'll be here tonight at the party, so